Good morning and welcome to our daily devotional from Pilgrim Congregational Church. I'm Patrick Horn. Very glad to have you this week. This is Monday, February the 20th, 2023, and we are beginning for Lent the study of the book of Romans, or at least several passages from Romans. And one of the central passages in Romans that has been used throughout church history to interpret the book of Romans is our passage for the week, which is Romans chapter 5, verses 12 through 19. So I'm going to do, as I usually do on Mondays, I'm going to read the entire passage and offer some general remarks. But one of the things I want to do too today is to compare our translation with a new translation that I think captures better the original Greek. So I'm going to start with a New Revised Standard Version of Romans 5, verses 12 through 19, and then I want to make some comparisons. Therefore, just as sin came into the world through one man, and death came through sin, and so death spread to all because all have sinned. Sin was indeed in the world before the law, but sin is not reckoned when there is no law. Yet death exercised dominion from Adam to Moses, even over those whose sins were not like the transgression of Adam, who is a type of the one who was to come. But the free gift is not like the trespass. For if the many died through the one man's trespass, much more surely have the grace of God and the free gift in the grace of the one man, Jesus Christ, abounded for the many. And the free gift is not like the effect of the one man's sin. For the judgment following one trespass brought condemnation, but the free gift following many trespasses brings justification. If, because of the one man's trespass, death exercised dominion through that one, much more surely will those who receive the abundance of grace and the free gift of righteousness exercise dominion in life through the one man, Jesus Christ. Therefore, just as one man's trespass led to condemnation for all, so one man's act of righteousness leads to justification and life for all. For just as by the one man's disobedience, the many were made sinners, so by the one man's obedience, the many will be made righteous. So this passage, which the New Revised Standard Version is actually a little better than the King James and other traditional translations, this passage was translated in the Latin in a way that created problems, I think, for the history of Christianity, problems that interestingly did not, the Orthodox tradition does not have, because they relied on the original Greek rather than the Latin translation. Primarily, it has to do with this idea of the sinfulness of humanity and the nature of that sinfulness. And it really comes out in this first verse that I read, that is verse 12. Therefore, just as sin came into the world through one man, and death came through sin, and so death spread to all because all have sinned. The Latin mistranslated the "so" here. The New Revised Standard Version is a little bit better. I think the King James, which I should have pulled up, but which has also had an enormous influence on. Here it is. In fact, let me see if I can pull it up. The King James says, no, it also is so, and so death passed upon all men, for that all have sinned. And I want us to take a look at this translation from a man named David Bentley Hart, who is an Orthodox theologian, but he was raised in the Anglican Church and is an American and is a language scholar, among other things. And he, I think, really does justice to this passage in a way that might change our thinking on the whole book of Romans. And this is how he translates verse 12. Therefore, just as sin entered into the cosmos through one man, and death through sin, so also death pervaded all humanity, whereupon all sinned. So the King James says, for that all have sinned. And the language debate here has to do with a small phrase in Greek, which it has been translated as kind of like therefore or for that in the case of King James, but that is not a very good translation. That whereupon is a little bit better. And just that one little phrase has been translated to mean that our sinful nature is something that we are born with and condemned for because of Adam. And that was, of course, the view of St. Augustine and influenced the reformers. And there's a slightly different emphasis depending on the translation. And what I believe is a little bit closer to Paul's original meaning, which is that in Adam, certainly death was introduced into the world and sin was introduced into the world. But the sinfulness of humanity is not something that we are immediately condemned for because we are vile in our nature, but rather sin is something that we endure in a way that is that like death, because we fall short of being eternal beings. This is not something for which we should have any culpability for or any sort of responsibility for, but rather has to do with our condition as being human. And so I think this is actually fits in better with the gospel message and also with the theology of creation. That is, that when God created humanity, God said it was good. The doctrine of sin, in fact, one tradition requires that we believe in the total depravity of humanity. I had a theology professor once who said he thought this was a very good doctrine if people would just live up to it. Mm-hmm. And that, of course, is the problem, because we can see goodness in human beings, and it's clear that God created humans to be good. So I believe that this was a wrong turn that was made in the history of Christianity, a wrong turn that emphasizes that human beings are totally depraved in a way that I think Paul did not intend. Paul is talking about the connection between sin and death, and he does broaden the word sin to include not only the things that we are responsible for, our wrongdoing, but also to include our condition as being creatures that die, that do not live eternally. And so I look forward to discussing this with you this week. We'll have a Bible study. I'll have a Bible study prepared for tomorrow night. It will not be live, and we will not have devotions on Thursday and Friday. I'll be out of town. John will have a devotion on Saturday, but we will discuss it in Bible study tomorrow night. And I look forward to sharing that with you, and also the book of Romans throughout the Lent period. Thank you for joining us, and I hope that you have a very good day. Goodbye.